going on, Greg?
Hey,
I'm sorry. It just took me a few minutes. I was just trying to register for college to make sure I could get in under the wire to see if I can get a little bit of that forgiveness if I sign up now, because it will be.
do we have is Beamer on this week, or is it just you and me?
I think Matt's coming.
Okay. How's it going over there at MX?
It's going good. It's going well.
Good.
Let me just see if I can get Matt on here. How's it going over there? You got it looks like the same view. Maybe you did a few things different in the background there.
No, I've done nothing different here. This is this is a bit of a cave in here.
Matt Beamer says he does.
I got a lot of stuff all over the place. It's
Beamer said he doesn't. Let me send Beamer a link. He should have it. I don't know why he doesn't have it. Forward to Matt. Jory sent it to him, so let's send it to him again.
User issue. Yeah, he was on the email.
But Matt's. I need his home email. We need some filler while I'm calling him here.
Well, we were just having that discussion about student loan debt. And the insanity of it all. Because my question is, one is, what about all the people that paid their loans back? Shouldn't we give them a credit for that? What are we and more? And here's the important question. Like, why does no one ask this? If you're contemplating canceling debt today, what are you going to do going forward? Continue to issue it, thinking that, eventually we're just going to cancel it? And if we're canceling student loan debt, why don't we cancel mortgages or car loans? Or maybe, maybe the government should start issuing credit cards, and then they can cancel that debt also.
Yeah, no doubt.
Or maybe maybe Matt, what's up, buddy?
How are you, Matt?
I've just been dealing with Hampton IT email issues we're having here today. It's just sorry.
You've missed my whole rant on student loan debt.
I figured I caught a part of it. I was backstage. I heard a little bit of what you're saying, but basically I was talking to a coworker earlier about that same subject. I said it's a transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the wealthiest of society, really. I mean, if you think about it, it's like when senior citizens vote themselves better benefits at the expense of young people. It's like, hey, the people that don't need the money the most are the ones that can afford to send their kids to college, or the kids that are going to college that are taking out loans. Most of those people are coming from middle, upper, and high class America in terms of income. And so if you forgive that debt, you're basically transferring the debt from the wealthiest people in America to the middle and the low end economic status of America, the taxpayer, to pay that bill. It's just kind of
my whole thing is, if we're having a discussion about contemplating canceling it, why are we not having at the same time, what are we going to do going forward? Are we going to continue to do this? So like every 5 years, we're going to cancel student debt, and that's just what we're going to do. So then what you're really doing is you're just funneling money through young people to universities with billion-dollar endowments.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, it's the rich are getting richer here, man. I'm self-interested. I've got a daughter going to Gonzaga tomorrow. Oh. And you know what Gonzaga charges to go to school now? Gonzaga, private Catholic college in Washington.
$70,000 a year.
70 grand a year is their sticker price.
Yep.
And of course they don't ever actually collect the 70 grand a year, but they come out with a sticker price of 70 grand a year, and then they give you rebates of like 20 or 30 grand, depending on, what little category they can find for you to fit into. And it's just a gimmick. It's just how colleges are structuring their tuition sales now. It's like start with a high price and work backwards, right? Well, they're still going to get 30 or 40 grand a year out of us, the people that go there. And some people borrow that money, they take loans out, and some people have their parents pay for it. Some people work their way through college and borrow money. That's what I did, Ash. I don't know how you paid through college. You got a scholarship, didn't you, for football?
Not
But
100%. I paid. We
I
paid
could pay
it.
for college. I was in the Coast Guard, in the reserves at the time. I had the GI Bill helping me. I think I was getting $300 a month from the government for my GI Bill, and I worked as a pizza delivery boy. I also did my Coast Guard reserves, and I paid for college. When I left college, I had zero debt, because college at Oregon State in 1986 cost $700 a term for tuition, and books were $300 a term. My housing was my biggest expense. I probably paid $3,000 a term on housing and food.
But Matt, that you bring up a great point is, what's happened over these last 10 or 15 years as they've expanded the availability of that money, it's done is served to let the universities raise their prices unnecessarily, just suck up the available money. I look back to, probably the greatest example of why it's not necessary is Mitch Daniels at Purdue University basically has kept the price the same for the last, or lower, in the last 10 years.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He was the governor, wasn't he? Wasn't he the governor at some point in Indiana?
He was governor before, but then he's been chancellor at Purdue for, I think, 10 or 12 years. And he basically kept his frozen the price. So the price and the value. I mean, I'm not a Purdue grad, so there's no bias here, but from everything that you see, the value of a Purdue degree has only gotten better over that time. So it's actually has actually improved the quality while keeping the cost down. I mean, right now, if you're a Indiana resident, it's basically free to go to Purdue.
Huh. Actually, we're off the rails here, buddy.
I'm gonna check off student loan cancellations.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to talk about this.
Now, should we talk about weaponized? No. Hey, this is a lumber show, right?
So let's talk about lumber, because a lot has changed.
This is This Week in Lumber, right?
This is This Week in Lumber with Greg Riley, Sitka USA, Matt Beamer, Hampton Lumber Sales, and boy, I've been busy in some meetings doing some stuff with what's going on here at Materials Exchange, so I've missed out a little bit on the activity in the market. And I think
whoa. What have you missed? You've missed.
Well, so when you and I caught up the other night, Greg, and you called me when you were out smoking the cigar, water in the garden, I'm like, what you explained to me this week so far was completely different if I would have been 7 days previous and you were talking to me. So what I heard was, and Matt, I'm like, basically, I just came back from it's like I came back from a trip in the middle of nowhere, knew nothing about lumber, caught up with Greg. And last week when I left, everything was still very decent. There was some buying. Mills were moving things, raising prices. We had some uncertainty in futures. And then I talked to Greg 2 days ago. It's like, hey, look at, mills are off $100 in prices on some stuff. Things are slowing down at some places. Business is still okay. But there certainly are some indicators that, and people are talking about mill curtailments again. So the price barely goes up, and no mill curtailments, it starts coming down, and all of a sudden we start talking about mill curtailments again. Some home sales, pending home sales, new home sales came out. So we'll start. What do you think on this, Greg? What's your thought on the market and that?
Well, first, maybe we'll run through some of the data. So new home sales came out yesterday, and they were down 29.6 from July of last year, the lowest level in 6.5 years. And and I take that back. That was existing home sales, and the supply was up to 10.9 months. We had new home sales last week. Pending home sales came out today, which is basically an updated number because the existing home sales is based on closings, and so pending home sale and new home sales is based on contracts. There's a bit of a lag. Pending home sales is supposed to make up for that, but that wasn't much better because it was down 19.9% for July, and is now down 8 of the last 9 years. Toll Brothers came out saying their new home orders were down 60%.
Whoa, 60%.
Yeah. So here's, to your point, Ash, you were in a time warp, and from 2 weeks ago, the market started to rally. Futures rallied $165. It's now back down within $20 of the low. Cash market has been giving up prices, I'd say grudgingly, because the pipeline is lean. End users do not access inventory because the slowdown has been really well telegraphed, and they've gotten themselves right-sized. But unfortunately, my feeling is that with the record number of homes under construction, that new home construction is going, and to that point also, multifamily is at an all-time high right now. Those things will create a scenario over the next couple of months where you're probably going to look at a housing start number of 1,000,001 to 1,000,002, and that's after running at close to 1,000,007 in the first half of the year. Am I bearish? Just a little.
So where do you think? So the next sales burger everybody's going to be using is the milk. What Riley think about that when he hears it?
What?
Matt, over to you. Matt, over to you. What do you think of this stuff?
I don't. The production is always really slow to like lag, and so by the time prices will all below the cost of production before substantive mill curtailments happen and it gets right sized. And the market will probably already have bounced and be bottoming by the time we really get the mill curtailment. How many mills are going to curtail today with the fact that this is the best time of the year to be running? They have logs and they have money.
So the answer to the question is the mills that are really efficient are going to continue to run, and the mills that are mildly efficient or even inefficient are going to shut down. So you're going to lose some production here based on unit cost. It's really that simple.
But Matt, isn't it right now the incentive is to actually make more wood, not less, because that lowers your cost?
Yeah, that you can't though. You can't hire enough people to do it, and
No, you already have all the people. You already have all the people that you need. You're not going to cut people. You're going to say, "Hey, how do we run more efficiently and make as much wood as possible so we lower our cost?"
If you're a company with multiple sawmills, you're already looking at which sawmills are losing you the most money. So you're gonna have curtailments imminently. In the West, right now, green Doug fir, if you want to go out and buy Doug fir logs, is $1,100 Scribner in the open market, and we're turning it into $400 2x4 standard better. So there's no math that works there. That's a loser, period. Doesn't matter how efficient you are. It doesn't matter if your name's Weyerhaeuser or some small little local cuttings mill. You can't take an $1,100 log and turn it into $400 lumber profitably. You're going to lose money every single time. So that's just Doug fir. I can only imagine what spruce is going to do. I mean, those mills are, Fraser's mill in Quesnel is a huge mill, right? Let's just use that as an example. Isn't that run capable of 750 million board foot a year at full capacity?
Yeah, when it was built, Matt, in 2009 or 10 and finished, it was to cut all that beetle kill wood. And it was one of the biggest Canadian mills out there, wasn't it?
I think
It's
so.
it's an amazing
I
mill when
think
you
it's
go
a
through it.
super mill, right? If you
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
I've been there. I've seen it. It's gigantic. It's a huge complex. It's the biggest mill complex I've ever seen. And I don't think that mill is designed to run at 350 million board foot a year capacity. It's designed to run full speed ahead, and at full speed ahead, it's a quite efficient sawmill. When you start running at half speed, your unit cost goes way up, and their logs are as expensive as they've ever been. So yeah, I don't think the curtailment talk is just fluff completely. Some of it is. There's always posturing, but I do think you will see curtailment.
Who cares, right?
I don't disagree with you,
if,
Greg. I'm just saying that
we need
the
to
idea
adjust,
that the mills made so much money in the last 2 years that they won't shut some stuff down here imminently, I think is not true. I think you will see shutdowns, and whether the market reacts to that is the question. Do I think the market's going to react to it? Maybe a little bit if you're worried about your short position. If you're a non-lumber entity and your fund is short, 300 contracts and you get squeezed, yeah, you might have to react. But I think the people in our industry are content to be short right now in general. I think most people, traders, companies, whatever, there was a time 6 months ago where we were content to be long. People were happy to hold on to things that they own and they just let the price appreciate. And now it's flipped completely. Now people are more comfortable being short and they're like, we'll just sit here and wait. It's the dynamic of our trading strategies completely flipped 180 degrees here in the last 6 months.
Well, we're pretty good as far as a show, and maybe it's just the simulation that we live in. After this show, generally when we talk about this, somebody will come out and make an announcement. So, one interesting thing, our mutual friend John here sent me a note. He said, "Did I turn into the View?" He must have turned in when we were talking about
probably. Yeah.
Brett Walls said West Fraser asking 572 by 4. First time I've seen them underprint on an ask for many weeks. Does that kind of coincide with what you're hearing, Matt?
They just need to sell lumber. Mills are going to need to sell lumber, and they're going to keep pushing.
September is $495, and is spot next week. So
yeah,
what's the bid on 2x4s for September shipment right now?
$495.
$495. There you go.
So let's go back to housing.
I'm gonna go back to my original statement of months ago now, where the market is not going to stop going down until you see futures at a substantive premium to the cash market,
which it almost made it up to 3 weeks ago. It did.
It was a premium for 15 minutes. When it made that high and then of 635 reverse. We had that several weeks ago. We've had two really decent bear market rallies in this market on the way down.
Well, let's go back to Matt on the housing, because I didn't let you get to finish, Matt, on that. What's your thought on housing?
Well, there's another dynamic in the housing that we haven't talked about. Greg alluded to the statistics, year-over-year statistics on July, but then there's like the value of your house, Ashley, or Greg, your house, or my house. The average American home has increased in value by 20 to 40% over the last 2.5 years because of the hype, right? The lack of available housing, the effects of the pandemic on people wanting to move to the suburbs, all these things we've talked about. Well, there's some of those homes were spec homes, right? There's always a spec home. There's second homes, vacation homes people buy, things like that. Well, when things are really good in this country, that's when you see the most of that. You see a lot of spec homes, people buy and flip, people buy and repair and then sell. People buy and rent with the idea that if the Airbnb thing doesn't work out, they'll just go ahead and sell the home now and pick up that extra 20 to 40% margin. Some of that inventory is going to come back on the market like right now. I bet it's coming back on the market as we speak. How many friends do you have, Ashley? Do you know anybody that does this, that buys extra homes and flips them?
So I literally have a buddy that 4 or 5 months ago bought a home in Utah with his other buddy that's not getting delivered till sometimes in 2023. and by a builder that's a little questionable. So they backed him a little bit because it was a no-brainer and it was guaranteed to make money. I'm like, whoa, when you start hearing stuff like that. But the other thing, Matt, about I wish my house price wouldn't have gone up now because I just got the reassessment on my property from the tax man.
I know they're Ash. They're going to absolutely hammer us. It's just
I'm crushed. I like went up like 60%.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the average reassessment is like in our around us is like 35 or 40%. I mean, it's brutal.
So Matt, to your point, there's a lot of the unknowns when things like that, when your housing prices go up. I'm not looking for a new house. I really didn't want to pay twice as much on my taxes, but you know what? Congratulations, Ashley, your house is worth a lot more, and now you have to pay more.
Now you got to pay us more each year.
Well,
yeah.
So Greg always jokes about how many houses for sale at any given time. All of them.
All of them.
Well, you're starting to see that now, right? Like there's going to be some extra inventory show up on the market. Yeah.
So they had the stat yesterday up about all the markets, that number of houses where there's price decreases, and there's like a dozen markets where like 60% of the homes that are on the market have had a price decrease in the last 30 years. So I mean, the last 30 days, a lot of high beta areas. But
Boise, Phoenix, Vegas, yeah.
I mean,
the ones that went up the most.
The ones that went up the most, those are the ones that are the highest beta and they're going to come down the most. Yeah.
So John,
that guy that wrote that book that everybody read back in the 90s about money management. I forget the book, but his whole thing was he made his fortune specking on real estate in Phoenix. Yeah. And Phoenix has been one of these feast or famine markets for as long as I've been alive. It's either straight up or straight down. There's no middle ground, where Portland's a lot different. Portland has really restrictive zoning and growth boundaries and all that stuff. So our prices don't go up as much as other places do, but they don't go down as much either. It's weird.
And Chicago, specifically the North Shore of Chicago, has been like a dead zone for money for the last 10 years. It was only just in this last year that prices got back to like the pre-Great Recession number.
Really
crazy as that is. Yeah, just absolutely brutal.
Casey was saying that was the book by Kiyosaki. Is that right?
Yeah. Kawasaki, that's the motorcycle, right?
Well, that's like no, it's the guy that did all the online infomercials back in the 90s.
I just had I'm kind of losing my mental faculties here. I can't remember the name of the book.
You're not that old, Matt. Come on, man.
Matt Lehman was saying, I wonder how many new home buyers waiting 9 to 12 months were double, triple bought, intending to take the first one ready and cancel the others. And it's funny. I was talking to my friend this weekend, Mike, at his club, and at his health club, and he was saying he has a person that he trains that bought 3 Hummer electric trucks just to flip them, right? So that mentality, everybody's still in that mentality in houses too, right? I think there's some people that do that.
That's why you see the cancellation rate up so high. And that's another, until that all flushes through, part of the thing with new home sales is if it's a cancellation and then they re-cancellation, it doesn't count. So what's happening is all of the new sales that are sucking up the cancellations, don't really affect the market. And that has to clear. And it's going to take, I think you're probably well into the fall and maybe into the first quarter of next year before that stuff.
That's so hard. That's so hard to think about coming back from where we were 6 months ago, where everybody is saying we're underbuilt. You won't have any more inventory. It's going to be different this time. Things are going to feel different. We're not building enough. And all of a sudden now we're having this conversation is, oh, we have inventory. We may be a little specky here. And this thing is, I mean, if I'm hearing everybody right on housing, we're sitting there right on the edge where we could still tip and kind of go down. Are you saying what do you think, both of you, pricing of houses now? I know it's regional, but let's just take it nationally here. Are we going to be, at the end of the year, our price is going to be down on houses from where we're at right now on the average price of a house, or are they going to be the same or up higher?
Well, I mean, they're still going up, right? I mean, if you read the stats, eventually the price of a house will go down. And, I mean, honestly, you kind of need that. If you're a young person in this country, let's say you're 25 years old, just getting married, thinking about having a kid, or two, and raising a family in the suburbs, the cost of entry into this world that we live in is exceedingly expensive. We were joking about $70,000 a year college tuition type
Yeah.
things that our people our age never had to experience that kind of stuff. So I feel bad because I've got 4 kids that are now entering, young adulthood, and my 20-year-old daughter lives in San Diego, and she's paying like $1,000 a month to share an apartment with some other people. I never had that. I rented a 3-bedroom apartment with my 2 buddies from college for $510 a month. We were all
That's
paying
true.
$170 a month.
Even
My
inflation
first
adjusted.
house in 1995 cost me $149,000. I mean, these all seem like big numbers at the time, but if you were making, let's say, $100,000 a year in 1995, and compare what you could buy in 1995 to $100,000 a year in 2022, it's like, from the mansion to the outhouse comparison. I mean, you can't buy anything for 150. And
I mean,
if you're
that's not,
making 100
that's not
grand,
true.
that's
There's a
not
lot
bad income, but
of areas of the country, Matt, where there are a lot of
you're not, yeah,
areas.
but they're not Portland, Oregon, or San
Right.
Diego, California, or Chicago,
No.
Illinois.
No. Well, no, they're not. They're Crown Point, Indiana, or
Right.
suburban Columbia, South Carolina, or
Sure.
I mean, places in the, I mean, in Iowa, in Kentucky. I mean, they're not coastal, they're not urban. They're outlying areas, but I mean, there still are. They're there. Matt, I mean, the one thing I look at to your point, Ash, is with the homes, it's a positive. Listen, that builders are now offering incentives for people to buy these cancellation homes.
Buying points down because they're running their own mortgage companies.
Exactly. The supply of homes, as you always say, hey, the cure for high prices is high prices. The prices have shot up, and now the prices are going to come down. It's going to be very regional, but the aggregate prices are probably going to be lower in the first half of next year than they are right now. Price increases have started to slow over the last 3 to 6 months. You're going to start to see some price decreases in the second half of the year, and prices will be lower depending on market in the first and second quarter of next year. My thing, with 1.7 million houses under construction, as that supply keeps delivered, that's going to offer more opportunity for people. Just as an aside, we started with the rant on the student loan because I started with it. Sorry. But they had this stat on CNBC about the number of buyers who have buyer's remorse for their purchases in the last 6 months. People who bought things sight unseen or felt like they had to make an offer because they'd lost out on so many things. And I really think that this is an opportunity for Uncle Joe to make good with those people. And they should just be able to they should be able to just get out of those, not have, maybe even get their mortgages for free.
Whoa. That's a real transfer of wealth right there.
What about those of us
why not? I mean, isn't that just fair?
What about those of us that have had buyer's remorse for 20 years?
I feel bad for the people that got squeezed like that. I was really concerned last June when we bought our house that I was going to be that guy. And through a miracle, it worked out fine for me and my family. But the feeling of desperation that my wife and I were having in April, May, and in early June of 2021, as we were perusing the entire listing catalog of about 300 homes for sale in the Portland metro area, was defeating.
Yeah.
And what I could buy for my money was, I mean, I've been in this real estate market for 27 years, and I know what my money would buy me over the last 27 years. And seeing some of the listings last year when we were going around with our realtors, I just shook my head like, there's no way this house is worth anywhere near this number that people are putting on it. And then to find out that that house sold for $75,000 over list price, or
which Matt, you
$120,000 over list price, that we didn't even make an offer on it because this is not the house that we wanted for whatever reason. It was just kind of defeating. I got really lucky.
which you had a natural hedge on your house that was increasing at the same rate, basically.
Right. But there was a point where my wife was asking me, where are we going to live? Because we'd sold our house, right? We had sold our house and gone under contract in April of 2021. And the move out date was like the second week of June, a year and 2 months ago. And we didn't have a house bought. We had just looked at one house and made an offer on it, and we got outbid by 10 grand or something at the very end, at the very last minute. And if it wasn't for just a house falling into our lap because we'd met a realtor that liked us, we never would have got the house that we ended up getting. And we ended up getting a good deal on a house in the middle of a market that was white hot, you know, and rates were 2.875. Now rates are what, 5? So yeah, I'd like to see some more incentives to the buyer. And I think that the home builders are going to have to, you know, do what the lumber mills are doing. They're going to have to give some ground, and they're going to start asking questions instead of telling people what they're going to settle for. They're going to be like, hey, what would you like here? And, you know, let's get some sanity back into the housing market. Great, fine. If it means that I'm not going to make as much on my home equity, that's okay. You know, I've got 27 years of home equity that I've piled up. You know, I don't care. I don't want my kids to have to pay $700,000 for their first home. Yeah, a college degree isn't worth that. You can't get that kind of money.
They won't, Matt. They won't have to pay that for their first home, but you will.
I'm just saying, life's gotten so much more expensive. These kids, and I'm biased because I'm a father, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm done worrying about my life. I've already done my thing, right? I'm just wrapping up the pieces here and working on, you know, how am I going to finish my life?
You're way too young to be talking about like that. Come on, man.
No, I don't plan on dying anytime soon, but I'm in the last third of my life, and all the goals that I set for myself when I was 19 years old, I've either accomplished or abandoned at this point in my life, right? So my kids are still in the discovery phase. They're just like doe-eyed little sheep, you know, just like entering the world for the first time, and now the world is a lot more expensive. It's just
so did you abandon the goal of being in a boy band?
Yeah, that, and I was going to be an Olympic swimmer and all those things, you know, professional sniper. All that stuff didn't work.
That's awesome.
I became a lumber guy instead.
So John Bavister put up a great point. Species loyalty is non-existent to many buyers in the current market. Best delivered pricing in many markets is Southern Yellow Pine, and the others will move toward the cheapest number. So, like, I don't concentrate on pine enough. I talk about it quite a bit, but I guess that's the one thing, because it's still a low-cost producer, and they are opening more mills down there, announcing more mills on a regular basis, and still pumping a lot of lumber out. Do both of you living in the spruce and dry Doug fir and hem fir market notice more pine coming into any of your traditional areas at all, or hear more about it with your traders that you talk to in that?
Not me. I know it's coming. I think 2x6 is a bigger deal, because that's the one thing that people make the most of in the yellow pine industry. They really know how to pump out 2x6, number 2. And some of that will stick with treaters and some framing companies, but for the most part on 2x4 lumber, I don't get inquiry, and I don't see a lot of orders for Southern Yellow Pine. I just see mostly white wood or Doug fir. You know, I'm kind of insulated from it in the places that I do business, and they don't seem to be clamoring for it either.
Yep. I asked the question on here: is everybody bearish, bullish, or neutral on housing the next 6 months? Kevin Otto said an entry-level home builder went from closing on 15 homes a month to 3. The 3 biggest home builders in Erie, PA, have no sold houses on the books.
Yeah. Yeah.
There, you know, ask back to your yellow pine. I mean, I guess I see it most in in the multifamily is that there's so many more of the jobs that, if the option of spruce or pine are going to pine, that's for sure.
And it's all price related.
But John Bavister does have a great point, because there's more, and part of that happened, through the huge run-ups that we had over the last 2 years. There was a propensity for people to take, AFS, any fine species, regardless, people have used another word, word in the middle there, but this is a family show, so I want to keep it clean.
Matt and I had it playing in our heads already because it gets bantered around daily on a trading floor.
But the more time somebody takes something and, hey, that works, then they're open to it. So one last point, and then I have to go. We talked about the futures contract last week, and I want to just let everybody know I haven't looked at the new contract at all in a week, so it doesn't have that much of an impact. But I did talk to someone about the delivery process and clarified that it is a truckload size quantity that is carload delivery in Chicago switching district, plus or minus whatever your adders are. If you have a different destination, blah, blah, blah. That's if you go to the delivery process. I think the most important point that we should think about, this is a spruce, hem fir, or Doug fir contract. You're going to have to watch what that hem fir and Doug fir price is, because, as we've seen in the past, there's periods of time where hem fir was a fairly substantial to spruce. And
so can it be hemlock or
Yep.
or it can be any
hemlock is stamped hem fir. So
understood, which is a big, so it's going to go to the lowest cost denominator.
Lowest common denominator. So we want to keep that in mind when we're looking at basis down the road here.
But does it have to be a car? Does it have to be a carload delivered, or could it deliver?
If you take delivery through the board, if you do an EFP, you can do trucks.
Okay, all right, that helps.
I mean, you could do trucks right now on the EFP process.
Right,
If you,
sure,
I've done it myself.
You could have done them 3 months ago, right?
I've done it. I mean, I've done it many times. So, but
great point, Greg. Kyle just said 2x4 Southern Pine is currently the highest priced 2x4 of all species at the moment.
It's because of the demand on the truss guys.
Yeah, which I hear is people that had in the South, order files out until the end of the year are starting to disappear a little bit now.
Who's walking in the background there, Matt? You got a guy walking in your background.
It's Chuck Lamping.
Hey, Chuck.
Low grade sales manager, or what? I don't know what his title is, but he does low grade.
He does low grade. He's not a low grade sales manager.
No, he's actually a pretty cool dude.
No doubt. So Thomas Baldwin, thanks, Kyle. John Bavister, MyTech software allows for species switch when MSR is as high as it was. They moved to number 2.
That's Chuck right there.
Thomas Baldwin said most of the wholesale lumber distributors in the Midwest are still working out real broken inventories. When will this change, in your opinion? Or is this the new post-COVID inventory management style? Great question, Thomas.
I think the latter is the answer. I don't think their bosses are going to let them load up on inventory at this point. We're still in the bosses are controlling things phase of the market, buddy. And now the bosses of the home builders are telling them what to do, right?
Well, with the market volatility of the last 2 years, you think about like how people have looked at inventory differently. I mean, the places, those types of places that, had great first half and then gave gobs of money back on their commodity inventories in the second half of each year.
Right.
You just look at that inventory a lot differently. I mean, just as the retailers, the distributors, which is something that's a positive for, the market stabilizing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more and more volatility here, buddy. We've just had Greg last week talk about 35% futures rebound, and then the industry sold that, right? We sold the premium, and now it's back down to within 20 of where it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And I think you're going to see more of that. I think you'll see volatility in all aspects of what our industry is related to, whether that's multifamily, trusses, the the pro builder guys, because if you look at these long-term charts of housing starts and real estate, mortgage rates, and all this stuff, there is a lot of volatility in our industry. We tend to go feast or famine. We're not really kind of an even-keeled industry. We overreact to the good and we overreact to the bad, and that's what's going on right now. We're in the process of overreacting to the bad, and then that'll be followed by a snap back to the good again. This is the pattern we're in right now. So, thank you.
Well, look at everybody. I appreciate it. We went a little bit over there, but I thought this was a good catch up, especially for me trying to find out what's going on in the market here.
Well, at the risk of alienating more of our viewing audience, we can have a further discussion on politics, or maybe we can move into more interesting topics like sex and religion.
Well, you know what we'll do when we launch under the new paywall. We'll do the 10 minutes before and the 10 minutes after for people that just pay for it.
Because tune into after the show.
Yeah, after the show where we
like
really
an
talk.
HBO special.
Yeah. When we talk about where the real price is traded at.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining Materials Exchange. We will make some big announcements next week, which you'll want to be sticking around for. And Matt and Greg, thank you so much. And Matt Lehman and I will be doing lunch with Lumberman tomorrow at the same time, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And Matt, as always, will bring some great ideas, thought process, and things to the market that makes everybody better. Matt and Greg, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
You too. See you guys.
Bye, Matt.